So based on those things, we are back to this chart again. As you see, right, you need to know the name, the fractions, and you also need to state their users. So which means they will quiz you on either telling the examiner that maybe say what petroleum is used for, what petrol is used for, what is the use for diesel oil, this kind of thing they'll ask. Then you will give them this. So generally, so you have the petrol and kerosene, they are the more common ones. They are used for one fuel for vehicles and the other fuel for aircraft. So buses and some cars, some taxis, lorries use diesel. Then lubricating oil, as the name says, is for used for lubricant. So then bitumen is always on the road surface, etc. You need to be able to give them this. So with that, we have an exercise here. We will let you fill up this one. For exam sake, right, you will need to be able to reproduce the spelling. You have to reproduce the order, and you need to reproduce the use of the fractions. Okay, number one, petroleum gas. So let's go back, see. Number one, petroleum gas is for cooking. Number two, for petrol, for cars, fuel for cars. Then number three, naphtha for plastics. Then you have number four, kerosene for fuel for aircraft, diesel oil, fuel for lorries, and then lubricating oil to make lubricants, and then bitumen for make road surfaces. Okay, we are fine. Then there's this process called cracking. You will not see it until you do alkenes and alkanes. So you will see that later, not now. So cracking is a process where you have large hydrocarbons. Then you break them down to produce smaller hydrocarbons in order to meet with their supply and demand. Okay, so talk about supply and demand. We will go back to our image just now. Say this. Okay, in your opinion, right? In your opinion, which fractions do you think has a higher demand? So kerosene, what else? Bitumen. Bitumen is not very much in demand. What is in high demand, right? Are all the smaller ones. So the smaller fractions like petroleum gas, then petrol, and probably naphtha has higher demand. Because petroleum gas, we use that for cooking. There are a lot of people who are still using that to cook at home, even though we have now the induction cooker and electric cooker and stuff. But a lot of people are still using gas to cook. Then petrol, if you have cars, you would need petrol. So look at the number of cars on the road, you will know what kind of demand we have, right? Electric vehicle is still not so common in Singapore, so it's still not a thing. Kerosene, you have aircrafts. We have aircraft flying all day long. So other than now, we have lesser aircraft flying, but during COVID times. But then kerosene is required because we have a lot of aircraft flying around. You see, air travel is a thing. So whereas the bigger fractions like bitumen, you don't have a lot of roads to pave. So the fractions like bitumen, lubricating oil, possible diesel, the demand for that three fraction is not as high as the first four, you see. So these few are in high demand. So then back to cracking, say a process where large hydrocarbons are broken down to produce more smaller hydrocarbons. So in this case, more bitumen and more lubricating oil is broken down into smaller fractions like petrol and your natural gas and maybe kerosene. So that you do that to meet the demand and the supply, because there are more people who wants to buy petrol than the number of people who want to buy bitumen. So there is this question. They say why cracking is required. There is the reason that I gave you just now. You will see that in more detail later.